Defeated by delicious fruit pies.
All right. Let's see if this works live. Defeated by delicious fruit pies. Yeah, that's right. You get the live one because I honestly don't know how to do a video intro for this, and I'm just going to basically post this directly to iTunes. Hello, everybody. This is NEDTJ on DBDFP. Eric Allen, otherwise known as Ned the Janitor, is my gamer tag, which most of you should know by now. And we've got a lot to catch up on. Only about a year and a half. You know, no worries. It hasn't been that long. Just a hot minute. So just as some basic stuff in the beginning, this is the first time that we are coming like live and in on camera. I mean, this was always just a radio show. I mean, nothing just about it, but we are now doing these on YouTube, and then I'm going to be uploading them to iTunes. So you'll still see episode 148, which is going to be in the books after this one. That will be on iTunes. You can check us out at DBDFP. But at the same time, this gives everybody an opportunity to kind of just jump on and ask questions directly in the chat. If you don't have a YouTube account, you have a Gmail account, so you technically do have a YouTube account. So you can ask questions right in the chat. I will do my best to answer them, but I do have things to go over that are specific. Oh, I already got a great comment about being a nerd. You know, you missed the other two, though. It's Nerds Media Mech Knife, which I understand because, again, it's been a year and a half. So let's get right to it, though. I want to talk about something that obviously nobody's talking about, which is Avengers. And, you know, this is really timely, and I'm right on top of it. And it's pretty obvious, like I said, that this is just the first time you're probably going to hear about the Avengers. But I did hear a lot of commentary on either that it was great or that it was really bad or I'm not going to watch it or like, you know, who did what and why. Apparently Scarlett Johansson is the heart and soul of the series and not Tony Stark. So I have a different take that I haven't really heard a lot. And I think I've only heard one person say part of my critique. Oh yeah, let me get it out of the way. This is the mug of the week. This is the Mario Brothers level 1, although it's on a black background, so I'm not really sure if it's actually level 1, but he's jumping and going through. The inside has a castle world, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, so that's the mug of the week. Just wanted to get it out of there. So Avengers, why am I talking about the Avengers? Dear God. I really wasn't going to, but then I was talking to people off camera. And when I was discussing my frustrations and my hangups, they were kind of like, yeah, you know, you should talk about this on the podcast. So I'm going to do that. So I have a list. I actually made a responsible bullet point list. By the way, is the audio okay? Because I don't know if my distance from the microphone is fine or not. I just want to ask in general. Can you guys hear me okay? Just throw it in the comment. You can just tell me if you can hear me. Maybe that means you can't hear me. Hold on, let me type that in. Do you hear what I hear? A pie up in the sky. Anyway, all right, so if you can hear me, I'm going to talk about first good, great, or awful. And by the way, if you have not seen Avengers Endgame, too bad. You're going to watch it anyway. I mean, it's not like I'm going to spoil it for you and you're not going to watch it. And honestly, like, there's nothing surprising at all that happens in this movie. And that's kind of the problem that I see. One of my first problems with it is there's nothing to spoil. It goes exactly as you would expect. If you've seen anything from the trailers or you heard anybody say anything about time, I mean, it's very predictable. There are a couple of things in the movie that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They did it that way. But for the most part, this movie was not a surprise at all. So, but just to let you know, there are spoilers. So as I talk about it, I am assuming that you are one of the many, many millions of people who saw this movie already, because obviously it made tons of money, as it still continues to. But not from me. I gave them my money. So is it a good movie? Is it a great movie, or is it awful? It's not bad. It's not even just a good movie. It's a pretty darn good movie. It's not even as good as the first half, part 1, but it's a good movie. It's like a very good movie. Is it what anybody was hyped up about? No, probably not. I mean, it was just good. It was not great. and it does not stand out as the most fantastic movie in the series. So, that's, I just want to throw that out there. That's the first part. The second part, character development and destruction. So you don't want to hear my spoilers. So, well, too bad. You're going to hear some of it, or just go, la, 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 and then I'll give you the thumbs up when I'm not spoiling it anymore. So here's my problem with the character development and then the destruction of a lot of characters. I agree that Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow, was developed a bit. In other words, she seemed to actually have a role, and she mattered. She was holding things together. She was the one that was really kind of just doing the heavy lifting and staying at the HQ. But I mean, she's definitely not the heart and soul of the Avengers. Like, really, if anything, she's like, she caused problems with that and the whole Civil War thing. I don't know how much you've all seen, but I'm assuming if you're even on this and you're listening, you've seen the other Marvel movies. So, but Black Widow does gain motivation to say, listen, like, I'm good. I want to matter, and I want this to be meaningful, and I want to do something to actually help and do good, because the Avengers have been good for her, not just good to her, but they've been good for her. Which, I kind of just feel like, what kind of standards do you have when getting the crap beat out of you by aliens and being thrown into different dimensions and space and stuff is like being treated well? Only a triple agent super spy would think that's being treated well. But, I digress. There was some development there. Hawkeye you were like kind of like train wrecked into his motivations in the movie. And his haircut was awful. I mean, like I was saying before, like, just because half the population disappeared didn't mean that he needed to lose half of his hair up to the top of his head. That's just terrible. I mean, that's not what the snap did, and he can't blame it on that. And this is on him. So he just, but he has this motivation, but it's so generic, like, and so ridiculous that, like, he loses everything. So now he's like, whatever, he's just going around killing people, which, like, I guess that's cool. But he kind of turned into a samurai instead of an archer. So yeah, again, not super sure about that whole thing. But those two together were the only humans, right? And they're doing all the human things and trying to figure it out. I mean, let's include Captain America, but we don't, because he, again, was just himself. Chris Evans is pretty much Captain America. It works. It's great casting. He did a great job, and he was pretty awesome at the end, although I still don't understand the hammer thing. I really just don't. I don't get that. Like, is that just, can everybody just do that now? I mean, how many people in these movies have just like either destroyed or picked up Thor's hammer? Like, that's supposed to be a thing, and it's just not a thing. It's not like anybody can just, like, go to McDonald's, Happy Meal toy, Thor's hammer. Everybody gets Thor's hammer. Oprah's giving them out. Like, every episode of Oprah now, there's going to be Thor's hammer. It's just ridiculous. So, but there's no development really of Captain America. He really just is the same. If anything, he digresses. And this is where I want to get into the destruction of the characters. So this is where there's definitely spoiler territory. I want to start with Thanos, because Thanos is the most important character of the two movies. Obviously, it's all about Thanos. And really, this has all been building up to Thanos. He was a very interesting character originally. Like, when he was walking through, even in Guardians of the Galaxy, he always had a methodology behind him. He had a reason to do what he was doing. You kind of understood where he was coming from. He was trying to do something evil, but to right another evil. And he also had a lot of deep respect for his opponents. And he understood what helplessness and hopelessness felt like, being powerless. And so when he's beating the crap out of everybody and basically annihilating them in the first half, he's talking to them respectfully and empathetically almost. So, like, yeah, I know what it's like to be powerless against your enemy, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, basically. Because what is Thanos' superpower, really? Like, if he's not just a Titan, he has a superpower. His superpower is the sheer force of will. And they kind of get to that when he says he's inevitable. But that runs really, really deeply in the comic series. Like, Thanos really is, like, he's the force of will. I mean, he put on the Infinity Gauntlet in the first half, and it didn't fry his arm. So, I mean, like, it doesn't bother him. He has the sheer force of will to use all those stones appropriately. But what he was doing all the time made him really difficult to hate as a character. You understood that he needed to be stopped, but there was a sense of almost sympathy or empathy toward him. Well, that's gone in this movie. I mean, he's just literally like Boogeyman. He's just a bad guy. And it's so ridiculous how he turns into a bad guy. I mean, he says something that is just so out of character at the end, like that he's going to enjoy the destruction of the earth. It's like, that really, dude? That doesn't make any sense. Even the first time he went there, as soon as he won, he shipped his army out. He disappeared. It's not like he wanted to just wreck the earth. He was not about total destruction. He just wanted to put balance back to the universe. That was his point. That was his goal. So for him to then say something like that and be almost angry and bitter made no sense. And like, again, super spoilers, like the whole thing, like, of him being 8 years older or younger, I guess, and then like shooting into the future, he was always this way. He was the same when he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm not really feeling that whole time travel thing made him different. It just doesn't hold water for me at all. And it's just ridiculous. So there's a lot of destruction of character there. Thor was another one where, like, I get it. And actually I think they kind of made him more like the classic Thor character from like the really poorly drawn golden years of comic books, where he was like, I mean, he was fat, but like he's still like Thor, so he could still, being fat really doesn't mean anything. He's a Viking, so I didn't really think that was a big deal. But just how he didn't gain a sense of self again, and he didn't try to then go on and lead his people. He's like, oh, you know what? It turns out I'm not a leader at all, that makes no sense, because that was the whole thing he was struggling with, is figuring out how to be a leader. So like he gets this whole like pep talk from his mom that like, you don't have to be anything that people say you're supposed to be. Like, so shirk all personal responsibility and you get all the benefits of being royalty your whole life. But now, hey, you know what? Pass that on, because Valkyrie can totally handle it. Well, like, that is not helpful. That is not a helpful message, and it destroys the value of his character being so into his people and really doing whatever it takes to take care of his people. And he always just kind of became the leader by default. So for him to kind of just shirk total responsibility, it doesn't make any sense. And like, I don't know, that was total nonsense at the end. And then the worst criminal of all of these in terms of character destruction is Captain America. At the end of the movie, Captain America has a mission, and he has to complete that mission. And that's really cool. And it's great that it's him. He needs to be the one that does it. And it makes a lot of sense. But he doesn't come back and try to rebuild the world. And remember, this is the same Captain America who in the beginning of the movie is running support groups for people to move on and live in the now and do the best with what you've got. But then why practice what you preach? Why not just go back in time and undo everything that was done? And by the way, how is that not dramatically impacting the present? Was he being hidden in the basement? Was he in the attic? I mean, like, he was dating this chick on the DL? Like, how does that work? And so he let Hydra happen? I mean, like, what is the net impact of a Captain America unthawed through this entire timeline? That's insane. That's like, that makes no sense. That you're sitting there saying like, oh, but it's okay when Cap does it. Right. Like, so now he's an old dude in a future that nobody really knows is going to happen now, because like, you know, everything changed and he just changed the past again. Nobody else has a problem with this. Like, I didn't hear anybody really complain that like he directly contradicted his own stance on this issue. Like, on the issue of whether or not you should be moving on or you should be trying to go back and change your past. He definitely has just completely done a 180 on it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So there's a lot of character destruction that went on there. I really didn't see the value in that. The other thing that was just really empty, like, and a lot of like sniffing your own fart kind of like fanfare, was here's everybody all of a sudden here to fight Thanos. Like, I get it, it's cinematic, like that was cool, but that was it. All it was cool. But it was so empty, and so many of the characters were just 2D. They just were there just to like do things, and it just seemed really, really rushed. And I was talking to somebody who actually made a really good point that it would have been better if it were 2 more movies. It really would. If they had the time to develop this storyline, you could have had part 1, which was what they did, part 2, which was getting all the stones, and then part 3, which was the final confrontation and cleanup. They really could have done that, and it would have, like a Harry Potter like last book kind of thing, really would have made sense. But they decided to rush it, and that leads me to the next part, which is the problem of 16 years of buildup and the expectations that come along with that. We could have waited, guys. We could have waited, right? Like, I mean, I think everybody here would agree we could have waited on another. Oh, gee, darn! There's going to be another Avengers movie. Like, bummer. It would have been okay. Not only would it have been okay, it would have been better. and we could have gotten a lot more rich plot points and subtext, and we could have gotten more character development. We could have given more actors and actresses opportunities to shine in 6 hours instead of 3. It just 16 years. We had so much time that we've been building this whole narrative up. And at the end, we get this sloppy, like, Hobbit ending. It's just like, I was waiting for the Eagles to come and start picking up everything. And yay, look, the Eagles. Like, I just was, it was so predictable. And it was such nonsense. And the fight at the end was so just choreographed. And everything was like pushed in to fit in because it had to be. You could not ignore Captain Marvel fighting Thanos. You couldn't. So we had to shove that in there. You had to have Tony die. Okay, so like you have to shove that in there somehow. The glove has to get passed around like a football. Like we're playing rugby with the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, remember a time where if you touched the stone, it would like explode your body unless you were like the Star-Lord? I remember a time like that. But put them all together in a funny glove, and all of a sudden we got Hawkeye running around with it like it's a football. Like, this is just insane. There was such nonsense and just goober stuff going on at the end that it was like, if I watched that when they were still thinking about producing it, but they just kind of held back, I'd just be like, no, just cut it off. Just let it go. We're going Frozen on this because you're going to let this go, and we're going to start over. We're going to do another half because I don't think anybody should have been happy with how this whispered out. It went out like a lamb. And that's sad because Iron Man was the first real serious movie for this, and that came in definitely like a lion. And it's so sad to see. And by the way, like, again, with spoilers, how about that funeral scene, right? Like, oh my God. Do I really need to have a swivel pan of every group of actors in the movie? Like, that's what the credits should have been for. You didn't need to have this, like, really awkwardly long stare down scene. Like, imagine I want them to back up the camera. There's like another camera that just backs up. And for that entire, like, 3.5 minutes, just has everybody staring forward. Like, that would be the most ridiculous scene. But like, that's all I was thinking when I'm watching this is like, they're standing there staring without anybody saying anything for an awful long time. I know that Iron Man needs some like a moment of silence, but we don't need an awkward stare down for like 3.5 minutes. Like, that's what we spent time on. We spent time on a funeral pan. We didn't spend time on more development. We spent it on a funeral pan. This makes no sense. It's just terrible. So the other problem that they have that I saw was not knowing where they want to go. Are they really gunning for more solo movies? Are they going to try to do another build-up for another group movie? It just seemed very uncertain where the universe was, and there was not a bookend on it. And in fact, was like passing one torch, which was the Captain America shield, which was awesome. I mean, that was a cool scene, but just passing that torch. But nobody else was really like, oh, we figured ourselves out. Everybody was just kind of like, well, that's over. By the way, somebody's dead. We're sad. And it didn't give you, which again, there was no after credit scene, which again, you could have spent the 3 minutes on. I'd have been set with a funeral scene where we just pan out, like a Blacklist season 2 funeral scene where just everybody just standing there for a second, then it just goes away. And then we could have spent that 3 minutes on an awesome prequel to something really good happening. No, I'm not done talking about Avengers yet. Hold on. Not yet. So this leads me to the other problem, which was the Disney problem, and this is why this is an issue. Disney purchased the Marvel Universe for billions of dollars, and they plan to make a lot of money on it, like a lot. And they plan on monetizing this for decades, not a couple years, legit decades. So, the issue here is, here, I'll stop doing spoilers. You can go on. No more spoilers. You're good. I just gave the thumbs up. If you're listening to this on later on in the podcast, I gave a thumbs up because, I stopped doing spoilers. But I do want to talk about Disney and why Disney is, I love Disney, and Disney funded and created a lot of great things in this cinematic universe. But knowing Disney, they want to monetize this into the ground. Like, now remember, Disney's the kind of company that sets up 100-year leases for hotels in Disneyland. They're a long-term thinking company. So when they made a purchase for the Marvel Universe, they were not going to stop after 20 years of making movies. That was never the plan. They want to make this and monetize this over and over and over again for many, many, many movies to come. And you know you already suffer from Marvel fatigue. Don't tell me you don't have superhero fatigue. If it wasn't Aquaman and it's not Batman and it's not the new Joker movie coming out, which that's a podcast for another day. If it's not these things, it's just another Marvel movie. And granted, and I'll talk about this in a little bit about Spider-Man, there are movies that are great. And I can't wait for the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think it's going to be fantastic. I love that setup. That's going to be really good. But the idea of Disney creating a dynasty out of all of the characters they've already gone through and recycling them and making more movies is exactly the problem that the 90s had with the comic books in general. There were too many heroes. Nobody died. Nobody had a storyline that ended. Everybody came back to life constantly. And they had to keep pushing and pushing to make more and more issues that seemed bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, granted, some of that was awesome, and it gave us things like Planet Hulk, World War Hulk. But that's most of the gold that came out of that time period into the 2000s, because there's just, what do you do? I mean, Thanos comes back and then his death brings him back. I mean, just come on. Like, the comics got really, really convoluted, and it's already starting with this. We had a bunch of people die in the first Avengers Infinity War movie, and for anybody to come back from that, which you saw from the trailer, so this is not spoilers, by the way, you saw from the trailer that there were people in it that supposedly disappeared. So they're already doing this where people are coming back, and it's permadeath is what makes movies and ecosystems dramatic. I remember Firefly and the movie Serenity. If you have not watched Firefly and you did not see Serenity, what's wrong with you? This is a real question. We need to talk. But at the end of that, you really got a sense of, oh, anybody could die. Holy crap. Like, there's real stakes here. This is really dramatic, and that's really tough. So, they really suffer. Disney is now, I think, going to suffer from, first of all, market saturation. We're way overdone. We have way too many Marvel movies under our belt. If you looked at that timeline, there are so many Marvel movies. But then again, it's going to suffer from trying to monetize things over and over, maybe just like recreating the same heroes or having people come back to life or alternate dimensions. If they bring Green Lantern back, I'm actually done. I'm turning off and putting it in bleach. Like, I'm turning Disney off. They're all set. It's going to be like a spider in the house, lighting it on fire, getting in that spaceship, going to the moon. So, all right. So from Avengers to Endgame, I do want to a bit of a critique, and this is something more that you guys can talk about either in the comments or after. We can kind of discuss later on offline. But did you notice the color schemes and everything change from the first Iron Man and the first Avengers movie to now and the last few movies? Because if you go back and you watch it, it's stark contrast, and not Tony Stark, although he's different too. There are more bright reds, bright yellows. There are Hulk is a greener green. He also doesn't look like a potato. And you have a lot of really crazy things going on over the time of the series. It gets darker and darker and more dramatic. And the color schemes even get darker. And it starts to move into more of the neon purples and pinks and away from the bright yellows and reds. And even Captain America's shield in Infinity War is not the shield anymore. It's some weird, I don't know what he did with that thing. Shield, it was almost like Batman shield. Remember the Bat shield? You guys see? Total side note. But I'm going to scroll for a sec. In the original Batman, the Adam West series of Batman, he had the Bat shield, and it was bulletproof. And there were guys with machine guns that were shooting at him and Robin, and he's hiding behind the Bat shield. And as soon as he, for a second, he puts the shield down and he whips batarangs at both of them and goes, bam, pow. And Robin's like, how did you know that they needed to reload? And he's like, easy, Robin. I counted the bullets of machine guns. Just fantastic work. So anyway, Captain America has the Bat shield, and Thanos just kind of crunches that like crispy critters. But yeah, so that's what I see, is that it's just getting darker and darker, which is it's okay. That's not the worst thing, but it was really cool when it was the fresh, bright, comic book colors that we were really used to seeing, almost like Thor had like that Superman red cape, and there was so much good about that really just, it was throughout all the color schemes and the backdrop and the background. So like if you really nerd out and you watch the background of all these movies now, you'll notice that. So anyway, that is all my Avengers talk for now. It's just, I had these unique critiques. If I forgot something, please throw it in the comments. But and you can always ask me throughout this. I'll be reading this, so as we go down, I have a spot at the end where I'll address questions. I don't have super chat feature yet. I have to have 1,000 subscribers and 400 hours of watch time. So make sure that you and 999 of your friends stare at the screen for hours and hours and just keep rewatching this over and over again, or all my other videos, so that I can super chat. And then you can pay me to ask me questions that you can now ask me for free. Anyway, so I'm going to bring back one of my favorite parts of the old format, which is the best of the rest. Again, I don't have any music for this, and I'm not playing the guitar for you again. So anyway, best of the rest. We are going to talk about something from each category, and I am going to pull in a couple of categories together, with the first one being Reanimator. So, and the good thing is I can actually show you Reanimator, which I couldn't do when I was just doing the podcast. This is the VHS of Reanimator. It is a fantastic movie. It's got that scene with that guy where he's like holding his own head in a bucket. It's great, but it's based off of the H.P. Lovecraft book series here of the Reanimator. And H.P. Lovecraft was fantastic because he told different kinds of horror stories. A lot of your classical and classic horror writers were talking about monsters and like vampires, werewolves, curses, and real terror, like things that will terrify you, but all things in the physical world, whether that's the creature from the Black Lagoon, or it's Frankenstein's monster, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These were all things that were of the world. Now, H.P. Lovecraft in general was writing more about the terror of the unknown. So when he spoke about like the elder gods and Cthulhu, and there were a lot of things that just weren't named. And the ending of a lot of his short stories were of somebody kind of going insane because they just couldn't handle how psychotically terrifying whatever they were seeing was, or hearing. He dealt with phantasms, he dealt with other dimensions, and just there's a lot of really great writing. But one of the things where he came back and told a more real life story, which honestly, it's one of the first zombie stories, is Reanimator, where the guy is actually reanimating corpses using science. You know, he's using modern chemistry. With the power of science, I can bring people back from the dead to try to kill us all. So he did. And then they tried to kill everybody, which was great. I mean, it's more akin to Return of the Living Dead, which I also highly recommend. It's hilarious. And this movie's actually pretty campy, too. It's pretty funny. But again, highly recommend Reanimator. It is something that you and not the kids will enjoy. Watch it when you are okay with gore. There's a lot of it. There's also some illicit scenes, rated R. All right, the second thing that I want to talk about is World War Z, the game. This game, I've really been leery about buying any games lately. I just got burned really bad on Fallout 76, and I am not talking about it. I'm in therapy for it. We're going to just, we'll work through it together, and maybe in about a year I'll be able to discuss it without tearing up. Okay. I promised myself I wouldn't do this. But I've been really watching World War Z closely since it first came out in some kind of alpha test where everybody's like, wow, this game is terrible. And I was like, wow, that's great. So they actually pulled it back and they wanted to redevelop more. And what it came out to be is essentially a Left 4 Dead clone. It has special zombies that are the same. It literally has like a hunter. It has a boomer. It has a screamer, which I'm not sure which one that would be, but there are special zombies. I'm sure they'll have the rest of them. Like there's like a jockey type character, I'm sure. Has really cool weapons. The zombies are a bit more bullet spongy, and it has like rocket launchers and like grenades and stuff, and so that's cool. And the zombies kind of like do what they do in the movie, which is nothing like the book. So that's the other thing. This is fine. This game is fine because it's based on a movie that is absolutely garbage. So it's great. I mean, it's kind of awesome. I'd like that a lot better than when you have a really great movie and they try to make a video game out of it and you end up with like Lego Star Wars or something. Nothing wrong with Lego games, but it's the same game over and over again. Just let's be real. You collect pieces of Legos. You can't even build with them. Anyway, the whole idea here of World War Z that I like is that because it's a clone and it's not a perfect clone, here's the deal. So you're telling me that there's a 90% or almost perfect clone of one of my favorite co-op games of all time and it has zombies in it? Okay, I'm down. It has all the same things. It has campaigns. It has checkpoints. You die a lot. It's hard, but it has leveling up. You can level up weapons. You can level up types of characters. It has specializations, which is different than just everybody not wanting to be Ellis. Basically, yeah, everybody but me. World War Z equals biggest disappointment since they ended Batman the Animated Series. Those are two pretty big arrows to my heart. Yeah, I mean, World War Z, the book was just phenomenal, and that was World War Z. The movie was just, I mean, Brad Pitted all over that movie, and it was just so milquetoast and boring, and it tried really hard to be exciting, but all it was just like watching people that walk like bugs up walls and buildings. And it had a cool idea and concept at the end. It just had nothing to do with World War Z, the book. All they had to do was make a movie that was the same as the book story. That's all they had to do. It was that easy. So like when you're handed a perfect story with a great perspective and a great reader base, like it had a lot of people that bought that book, and you decide like, no, you know what this really needs instead of a plot and like a really cool story and like a great like tale about corruption and people, humanity, and then bringing ourselves back from the brink. We need Brad Pitt. Yeah, because he's relevant. Is he relevant? No, he's not. The point is, yeah, but the game is great because it's not following Brad Pitt at all, which is probably one of the best features of the game. So I'm really excited about it. I have not gotten it yet, but stay tuned. If I do ever get it, I will do it, not a review, because I'm not going to be one of these game review sites. This is not what Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies is all about. We're not defeated by delicious fruit reviews. This is like, I mean, and if I reviewed fruit, it would just mostly be me complaining about cherries. But I will play it probably, and I will talk about it. I may even live stream it if it's on PS4, because, and I'll talk about that in the housekeeping part. So I'm not going to keep talking about that. But anyway, Left 4 Dead 3, not bad, right? So check it out. Should have starred Hollywood Montrose from Mannequin. Not the actor, the actual guy in the movie. Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. Oh, how do you even remember Hollywood Montrose? How do you remember that name? I mean, like, and do you remember like the Egyptian beginning of that movie? That was absolutely insane. That whole movie was insane. If you have not seen the movie Mannequin, I seriously, it's ridiculous, like Crazy Town. It's really, really nuts. Anyway, speaking of that, you might be able to watch it on Netflix, but I don't recommend it because I'm canceling my Netflix subscription. Why would I do that, you say? Nobody said that, but you're going to in the comments section after you watch this, or on the podcast, I'll get some hate mail. If you want to send some hate mail, it's defeatedbydeliciousfruitpies@gmail.com. Tell me why I need to keep my Netflix subscription. Incidentally, my Netflix subscription is, I think, tied to that account, that Gmail account. So anyway, why am I getting rid of Netflix? Well, number one, Marvel is out of Netflix, which, honestly, if I look back on the last 2 years, 3 years, aside from Stranger Things and obviously reruns of The Office, which is also going away, it was all Marvel shows. And the Marvel shows were intentionally like sandbagged big time. I mean, it was obvious that the writers were so angry and just like totally trashed the last 3 seasons of Marvel shows. It was pretty obvious. I mean, Iron Fist, when you get the kind of criticism that they got about Iron Fist as a character and as a series, and they make another season like they did, it's on purpose. It's just on purpose. Like not even Heroes was written that badly during the strike, the writer's strike. Okay. That series is so bad. It just, anything would have been better than what they did. It was on purpose. So the point is, they sandbagged those shows and now they're off. And now, so what is going on with Netflix? What are they doing? What's new? What's great with them? It's all becoming like the poor man's HBO. And HBO is now more like Netflix. So if I have to go with Netflix originals or HBO originals, might as well just get the subscription for HBO. By the way, I also have, Amazon Prime, which comes with the Prime videos, which has all the awful horror movies and like bad action movies and like kung fu movies that I used to love being on Netflix that aren't even on there anymore. Like their library shrunk so much of like third-party crap movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s that I can't even begin to like complain. Amazon Prime Video is great. It has tons of hours of useless movies that you would never want to subject yourself to, except for if you were at a party and you wanted to subject it on other people too, and then laugh at how bad it is. Which, you know, there's Hulu too for that. And although I hate their model and I don't like commercials, I would go with that instead. So, you know, what are you going to do about Stranger Things? That's a good question. I already have the subscription for May. I'm going to have it for June. I'll have it for July, and then I'll cancel it. And then next year or 2 years later, if they do another season, if they don't screw up Stranger Things, which, by the way, is extremely likely because it had 2 great seasons, man, it's tough. They could go the WB route on season 3, and the kids are getting older. It's not cute anymore. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I'm leery. I'm really leery. But what I'll end up doing is probably watching it and canceling. And then in 2 years, if there's another show that I want, I'll pay for a month, binge watch the series, cancel again. But they just raised the price again anyway to like $17 a month. So I'm going to pay $17 a month now, like almost $240 a year to watch like 2 David Attenborough specials that I could have watched on YouTube or clips from it or just like bought outright. Like there's not enough David Attenborough things being made for me to spend $240 on Blu-ray. So I don't really need this. Like all of the shows are old. The series that I just saw, there's a new zombie series out there. It is so lackluster and it's so bad. And just the original series, they're not good. They're just not. You know what? If they were really good, you know what they would be on? Blu-ray or, you know, a theater. But instead, you know where they're at? Netflix. So if they get really good, you know what they do? They put it out on DVD. I've seen this happen. I've seen original series go out on DVD. I'll buy it. When you start to raise your price point past there, like I just don't need it anymore. And by the way, Redbox is still a thing. Remember Redbox? It's like Video King, but with a big red box. Oh, Video King. That was it. See, that's a moment of silence. If Tony Stark just had that moment of silence, you would not have needed to have 3.5 minutes of panning around people and getting drunk on it. So anyway, so that's Netflix. I'm sure other people know what I'm talking about. It's just getting too expensive. It's stupid and it's not worth it. So let's talk about Spider-Man on a positive note. We finally got it right so far. And again, I'm leery of third movies and third seasons. Bad things come in threes. But can we talk a minute about Venom and now Carnage? Are we doing that right yet? Because I didn't love Venom. And I saw the trailer for Carnage, and I like that Spider-Man's in it, but I'm not thrilled about Carnage and how he looks. I mean, they picked the perfect actor, obviously, because he's one of my favorite actors of all time. Woody will forever be in my heart, and not just because he has, you know, my name on his shoe. But he's nobody caught the Toy Story reference. Wow. Okay. Anyway, I'm not Andy anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'm just concerned about this because they're going to try to mix Carnage and Venom into the Spider-Man universe, which is with the Avengers universe. So you see what I'm saying here. This is where things start to kind of blend in, and it's a very dark series. And I just, yeah, like Chris is on board today. Just so you know, we got Chris from the original. He's a crewbie who's here, and he is saying the same thing. Venom was rough, and he can't buy in. I'm the same. I really have a problem with how they did Venom. I really did it. And Venom is, again, it's World War Z, right? You have a perfect storyline with a perfect anti-hero, with a cool Spider-Man storyline. You got them together. It's all written for you. You want to make a movie about it? No. I want to use the guy from that 70s show. And I want to make one of the movies we still don't talk about today that killed that series the first time, which sucks because Bruce Campbell was all about that. And then what are we going to do after that? Oh, well, we're going to use this other rando, and then we're just going to make it about like eating people's heads. We're eating people's heads. That was literally like the second trailer. It's all about eating people's heads and being hungry. That's not the point of the symbiote. It's just not. That's not part of the story. And so then when I see Carnage in the trailer and he looks nothing like Carnage, I don't know. It's really looking rough. It really is looking rough. I'm not down. So Spider-Man, really thrilled, and I think it's going to actually mess up Spider-Man's perfect track record by putting him in with that terrible side story of Venom and Carnage. You know who they should keep with them is Deadpool. Just keep Ryan Reynolds fighting those two forever. Maybe give him Venom, or maybe give him Carnage. That'd be funny as hell. You have like Deadpool with Carnage put together. That would be just probably one of the best things ever. So I don't know. I have thoughts. You know, If you're one of the Hollywood producers that's always watching my show, you can always email me at defeatedbydeliciousfruitpies@gmail.com. I've got better ideas for you. So let's keep moving. Thoughts on the new Watchmen series? I will address that in a minute because now we're done with the best of the rest. So we're going to talk about some housekeeping. So what are we doing moving forward? One of the things that I want to make sure that everybody knows, yeah, this is 6 o'clock today, but this is subject to change. I think the day of the week is going to be the same, but 6 o'clock may be too early. I may move it to 9 p.m., especially in the summer as it gets lighter out for longer and I'm kind of out of the state and I'm doing a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to be trying to grab some of the other crew members and getting together with some Skype stuff and figure out all that and not be such a boomer about my technology. And so we're going to be trying to do more things like that, and that may require us to be a bit later. But it might not. We might be able to record earlier. So tell a friend about this show. Tell them to like and subscribe. Actually, I think we have 220 some subscribers at this point. Not too bad, but I want to get to 1,000 because I want to be able to start doing cooler things, and that it gets reviewed and it's like a legitimate page then. Ooh, legitimate. There's going to be some work being done on the website too. It's under construction right now. You actually cannot get to dbdfp.com. I am sorry. I know that half of you are crying and the other half are going mad, but yeah, you're gonna have to wait. But tell a friend about it, like and subscribe. It really does matter. The metrics really matter. If we're gonna get discovered, if we're gonna have more people jump on than just a couple hundred people, which I'm really appreciative and I thank you all for what you're doing, we're going to need more people to know about it, and in different parts of the country and the world. So just tell people to subscribe. That really helps a lot. And if they hit the notification thing, then they'll get new videos that come up. And I'll do some random stuff. Like I did the X Pies and I did Stranger Pies. Like those are kind of funny. They're just really quick clips. But, just letting people know about it's really cool. Also, tell me when you think the best time would be for me to be doing this. I will cater it to the first 10 people that ask me to make the time. I will be posting this on iTunes weekly. Once again, that'll be on DBDFP at iTunes. So anywhere where you're listening to podcasts, you can always just look us up, DBDFP, which of course stands for Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies. And I'm really glad that it does because I actually didn't double check that the first time that we did it. So thank God we were right on that. And so we're taking suggestions for guests as well as for topics. We're going to be probably doing a lot more with all this, and and I'm excited about it. I'm excited for all the different stuff we'll be doing with the series, and obviously like anything goofy, anything related to comic books and movies and video games and television, I'm down. And I'm down to have any of you guys, any of my listeners, any of the people who are watching. We'd love to have you. And this is a passion project, of course. This has not ever been about money. It's not really about monetizing it because, like, the $2 I'm going to make on ads is like really going to kick me up to the next level. It's a passion project. We really do care about this kind of stuff, and I really wanted this to come back because I think we had a great viewer base or listener base. We had fans. We had people that contacted me after we had been on hiatus for a long time, and I feel like that was a disservice to a lot of people, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to be taking a harder stance on this. I'm going to make time for this. This is a priority for me. So thank you for making it a priority for you on a Sunday afternoon. And now let's get to the last of the questions. I think I got everything except for this one. What are your thoughts on the new Watchmen series? I'm very excited. Anything with the Watchmen, honestly, I'm excited about. I don't know too much about the series. I don't know who's directing it. So I don't know what's behind it, the money that's behind it, because that will really dramatically change whether or not I'm going to like it. The thing is with the Watchmen is that it's a really cool alternative history. So I love alternative histories, as you know. I love Fallout. Can't even see this holotape. But anyway, this holotape is empty. It's hollow. Oh boy, that was a pun. You can't go without a pun on the show, and you know this if you're on this episode and you don't know that we are pun filled. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be good. I know I'm not going to have time for it, but the movie very much aligned with the comic. Yeah, it did. I mean, it was beautiful. It was like, talk about getting the correct artistic everything. I mean, like, really artistically it was perfect. I'm not sure about the ending. I did like the ending, but I'm not sure if that was really true to it. And I don't know how they're going to do a series that's going to really trump how amazing that movie was. So I don't know. I mean, it might be great, and maybe it's just going to feel like a low budget version that has great writing. But honestly, like, can you guys tell me any great show that you've seen lately that has like great writing? Not actors, not scenery, not special effects. What's a show that has fantastic writing? I'll wait. So you see, it's got Mario. Where is he? There it is. Stranger Things. Is it though? Is it great writing? I mean, the first season was great writing, but was the second season great writing? I could get into that. I mean, I could rant about how like the whole upside down being under the ground and all that was like not making too much sense, and the fact that he was like dying and then got sick. There's a lot of things I could say about that just don't make any sense. The first was definitely written better than the second season, like in terms of it drew you into a story. There was a lot of mystery. It didn't like it was about feeling powerless and helpless to a something that was just beyond. It was actually very Lovecraftian. It was very much an H.P. Lovecraft inspired story. They got the nostalgia down right, but then after watching like Everything Sucks and like it's just that nostalgia thing. I'm also kind of burnt out on nostalgia. As I have my Made in the '80s T-shirt with Mario 3, which is fantastic. I'm burnt on nostalgia in shows as a mechanism for getting me interested, because it really just needs to have more to it than like stuff from the 80s. Like I love stuff from the 80s, but like honestly, like I'm watching Reanimator on VHS on my TV that has a built-in VCR, and I have an NES connected to the same TV. I have nostalgia all the time, anytime I want. Look, nostalgia. Wow. Oh, whoa, like Keanu Reeves and Bill and Ted. We could also talk about John Wick 3, but we all know that's going to be awesome. So we don't. Enough said. We're done here. Is anybody have anything else to say? Or we're going to call it. Going once, going twice. Shame on you. You've been defeated by a delicious fruit pie. Thanks everybody for joining. We will see you next week.